students. This is session 10, and in this session I would like to talk about public service motivation. Everyone has kind of a motivation to work, right? What was your motivation to work in current or previous job places? Because of higher salary, or promotion opportunity, or opportunity for the personal development, okay? Or some friendly collegial environment? What was your most important motivating factors, right? Do people having motivation work better? This is also a very important question. Let's say in previous session, session 9, we talked about recruitment and training civil servants, right? Let's assume that Vietnamese government recruited the best and the smartest guy in their government. But what if he or she doesn't have a motivation to work, right? Then you may not expect a kind of a greater performance in your government, right? So motivation factor is very, very important in the context of the human resource management. So in this session, we're going to talk about job motivation, but in particularly in the public sector. Okay? Okay, so first we will explore why motivation is important first. To simplify, to give an answer first, motivation is one of the most important factors that pushing your employees to work, because it affects, workers' performance eventually. Second, there are some motivating factors. What factors actually motivate you as a worker? In my case, collegial environment, friendly environment at FUB is quite an important thing. But for someone, higher salary, if your job gives you more money, then it can be a motivating factor, right? So each people have a different set of motivation. And there has been a lot of theories explaining some basic needs and motivational factors in both private sector and public sector. So we will explore these motivating factors together. And finally, some scholars in the field of public administration or public management believe that civil servant or public servant have a different sort of motivating factors. For example, if once you become a bureaucrat in the government, civil servant, you may participate in important government decision making, right? Or you may have a chance to serve your citizens, right? This is a somewhat different set of motivating factors from private sector's motivating factors, right? So we will check whether this is true or not in this session. So let's first think about some definition of motivation and the importance of motivation first. According to Mitchell in 1982, motivation, along with workers' ability, your ability, and your work environment, determine levels of organizational performance. So as we discussed in session 9, recruiting the best, the smartest guy in the public sector is important. But that's not the end of the story. You have to motivate that workers to work better, right? So selecting good people is not the end of the story. If you can see this equation, your organization's performance depends on a worker's ability and work environment. But this is not the end of the story. You need additional factor, beta. Beta here is motivation. So motivation is a kind of inner psychological state in which he or she attempts to operate one's behavior in a certain direction. I mean, more work, better work, right? Achieving certain goals. I mean, motivating to work. So this is a kind of a critical element in deciding your organization's performance. But interestingly, let's take a look at this yellow box. According to Vietnamese Net News, published in 2015, a Vietnamese expert said, he said, jobs at the state agencies in Vietnam are wanted by the people who want easy and stable work, stable jobs. What do you think about this statement? Do you think the people in Vietnam want to have a public sector job to perform better, or they expect some different sort of things, easy and stable? Do you think these two are motivating factor? Well, I think if this is true, your government is in big trouble, right? Your government needs something to attract some motivated workers in the government, right? So, I think thinking about this motivation and motivating factor is very, very important in deciding your government's performance. And even you are in the private sector, motivating workers is extremely important. So in the following actual class sessions, we will take a look at some different data. And one of the master's thesis students actually surveyed 433 Vietnamese students. And the survey outcome is very interesting. So we will discuss the Vietnamese status and from a comparative perspective. Thank you very much for watching.